Welcome to Present Poetry, a podcast where we sit back, relax, and enjoy some poets of the past and present. I'm your host, Erin Crittenden, and before we get started on this week's episode, I want to remind you that all of the material used in this podcast is either public domain or used with permission from the author or the author's estate. It's a fun time for all ages, so sit back, relax, and get ready to hear this week's featured poet. This week's featured poet is Karen Watts. Karen Southall Watts teaches, consults, and writes in North Carolina. Her works have been featured in multiple online publications, as well as in the North Carolina Bards Poetry Anthology of 2023 and 2024. She's also been in Gathering 2024 and Letters I'll Never Send. Karen is a 3-time Pushcart nominee for poetry, and her poetry chapbook, Desire, Dreams, and Dust, was released in April of 2023. We are reading a few of her poems, which she sent to us through the forum at presentpoetry.com. This poem is called The Risk of a Daily Walk. She tells me she has bone on bone in her knees, and I am horrified when I realize what that means, and every time afterward when I see her. An old filthy cat covered with scars lives in her yard, and seems to be wasting away too, despite bowls of kibble and lots of living food. The 1970s are strewn across the porch of a structure held together by moss and despair. Her eyes are always watery and red, and I wonder if she sees into my mind the distress and dread of becoming like her, and how I fear the day I don't see her there. This poem is called Refrain. I put the song on repeat, the one sung by that girl you always said looked like me. Of course I cried, but still washed the dishes. I never said goodbye. Every day I wonder, had we known it was the last time, would the kisses have been sweeter? The strains of Rebel Yell shook the walls. The next day, my landlord, rolling his eyes, muttered, "She's going to hell." We burned the candle at both ends and down the middle. If I could, I'd do it all again. This poem is called From Nowhere to Nowhere. Collectively, we have learned nothing, allowing work to swallow the hours of baby smiles, moonlight walks, and summer flowers. Moving from nowhere to nowhere as fast as we can, pleasure a remembered taste, our haste born of frustration and desperation. From the shepherd's crook or tanner's vat to wealth management, or do you want fries with that? We kept the power struggle and threw out the pastoral. A tiny race on a tiny planet, lost among the galaxies of galaxies. We kept our ambitions tiny too. Perhaps there is still time to quell our burning excesses and become that for which we were designed. Or we may move from nowhere to nothing in the blink of a cosmic eye. This poem is called Saturday Morning in Fall. It's deliciously cool, so I curl back into the blankets, check my device for the news, and then decide to steal a bit more sleep. When the sun's full up, and songbirds and highway sounds compete in a strange rural symphony, I move. Stretching and cracking, giving the to-do list a passing glance, I head to the kettle, and the dust of my dreams dissolves in my cup. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Present Poetry Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to like us, leave a review, or share us on social media. If you are a poet or you know someone who is, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us or submit your work through our website, which is www.present-poetry.com. Again, that is www.present-poetry.com. We can't wait to hear from you.